What's up, y'all? My name is JR, and for those of you who don't already know, I'm a huge movie and TV nerd. If you're new here, I appreciate you taking the time to check out my channel. I hope you'll consider sticking around and joining the film community I'm trying to build here on YouTube. So in today's video, I'm going to be giving my reaction and review of Netflix's latest action thriller film, The Rip. And just so you guys know, this video will contain spoilers, so if you haven't gotten around to watching this movie yet and you don't want to know anything that happens in it, you might want to exit this video now. And with that being said, no more wasting time. Let's get into it. The Rip is an American-made action thriller film written and directed by Joe Carnahan, who developed the story with Michael McGrail. The film stars Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Steven Yeun, Tiana Taylor, Sasha Calle, Catalina Sandino Moreno, Scott Adkins, and Kyle Chandler. And the film was released by Netflix on January 16th of this year. And at the time of the making of this video, the movie has an 83% on Rotten Tomatoes based on 82 critic reviews, with its popcorn meter currently sitting at 70%, based on over 500 verified ratings. The movie has a Metascore of 64 on Metacritic based on just 28 critic reviews, with a user score of 5.8 based on 45 user ratings. And finally, the movie has a 6.9 out of 10 on IMDb with just over 25,000 ratings. Now, I only heard about this film a few weeks ago, but that's not atypical seeing as how it wasn't being released in theaters. But despite what some may think, I actually think that Ben Affleck and Matt Damon do a fairly decent job of producing films. And when they do it together, sometimes really good things happen. I say all of that to say that though the movie was a straight-to-streamer type of film, I was at least mildly interested to check it out. Now, the film started off in typical fashion for a movie of this genre, with Captain Jackie Velez of Miami Metro Tactical Narcotics Team being murdered by heavily armed masked men. But during the shootout that happened just before, she managed to send a text. In fact, Shawty was texting while she was shooting and hiding behind parked vehicles. And, I don't know. I thought this particular scene was just a bit clumsy, especially given that it was the first scene of the film. The way that she was shooting while making sure she was sending the text was just a little bit ridiculous. I'm like, your life's on the line. I get it. You need to warn somebody because you might die. I felt like this could have been done a little bit differently because it kind of looked a little jokey, the way that it was choreographed. But, I guess that's, you do what you have to do, right? And after that, we get the remainder of the setup, which is just cops that are a part of the tactical narcotics team being questioned by the FBI about corruption within the group. And eventually, this inquiry leads to a fight between Detective Sergeant J.D. Byrne, played by Affleck, and Dale Byrne of the FBI, who is J.D.'s little brother. And this happens because he brings up the fact that J.D. and Jackie may have had a romantic relationship, and that kind of sets him off. And, and we actually see that they did kind of have some kind of relationship through a couple of really quick flashbacks. Now, from there, we essentially get a film that's a bottle movie. That being a movie that takes place mostly in a single location. Now, we watched a small cast of characters go to investigate a location where they found millions of dollars in the attic. And this was apparently the text message that was being sent by, this was the text message that was being sent by Velez. And they must figure out if all the members on their team are clean, as they also try to decide ultimately what to do with the money. Again, I don't really have an issue with this, the setup and kind of setting up the pieces so that you can move them around the board. That's really all this is here. And, par for the course. Nothing really super special about it, but par for the course. We've seen these movies before, right? Now, from there, it's an hour or so of who's who. And the writers try to present both J.D. and Lieutenant Dane Dumars, who's played by Matt Damon, and who is also in charge of the scene, as both dirty cops, or potentially dirty cops. But Detective Mike Rowe, who's played by Yeun, is also asked several times by Dumars if he's a snitch, which I'm not going to lie, made me feel like he was. And then finally a call gets made to DEA agent Mateo Nix, who gives them instructions about what to do next. And it was more than clear that he had something to do with what was happening at the house. That maybe he was even the ringleader. So the film makes rather short work of the part of the story that requires you to separate the good guys from the bad guys here. My man Kyle Chandler playing a bad guy. I'm here for it. Listen, ever since Friday Night Lights, Kyle Chandler's been my guy. And so, like I said, I love his work. And here, he's playing a bad guy. I thought that was really interesting. And, after that, we get a brief set piece wherein the money, along with Nix, Rowe, Byrne, and Dumars, are all on the move. And that's where more gun comes out, right? They are able to kill Nix and arrest Rowe before Byrne and Dumars spend some time on the beach together watching the sunrise over a beer. I thought the story was fairly straightforward, and after the setup, it got to the point fairly quickly, which in turn helped with the film's pacing, right? Making for a pretty fast and even watch, even for a sub 2-hour film. The dialogue was serviceable here, but there were no real bars that I noticed, but a film like this doesn't really need them. Now, what I did find kind of interesting, and I've seen some people kind of make some content and some videos here on YouTube about it, is that over the course of the film, it is said several times, what, do you think I'm going to jack this rip? Do you think we should steal this money? Do you think we should this? They say it over and over and over again, right? And Matt Damon even did an interview where he said that Netflix wanted them to essentially explain the conflict in the film over and over and over again. And he said that this is because they expect people to be watching their content while they're on their phones. So kind of like half in the bag, paying attention, so to speak. And so they want you to, typically you would say show, don't tell. And what I'm starting to see, especially with Netflix's content, is that they're starting to do a lot more telling. I told you guys, even in the last couple of miniseries that have come out, like Runaway, for example, where they did a whole lot of exposition through dialogue, and you're like, damn, like, okay, we see what's happening here. You don't have to like give us the play-by-play. But I am starting to see that happen more and more, and it was just interesting that Matt Damon just came out and said the quiet part out loud, that this is what Netflix wants. And so when it comes to the small writing, I did think it was overkill with them kind of explaining, oh, should we steal the money? Or, oh, do you want to steal the money? Do you think I want to steal this money? Should we steal the money? Like it was a lot of that in the movie. So if that kind of thing annoys you, prepare to be annoyed. And again, like I said, that kind of violates the show don't tell axiom for me. I think that's bad writing, but I mean, if you want to get your movies made by these big companies, you got to do what they want. And so if Matt Damon and Ben Affleck got to do it, then Mr. Independent Filmmaker, you definitely got to do it. I also felt like there could have been a little more action than we got, especially given what this movie was about. There wasn't enough bang bang shoot 'em up for me here, and I think there was space for more of that. I like the small cast and the limited locations. I like films that work to tell us a good story instead of relying on and distracting the audience with tons of locations and 50-11 car crashes and shootouts and explosions and whatnot. I think you have to work a little harder to tell a minimalistic story and still have it hit and land and be good. I thought that casting was pretty good for the most part, though I don't think Teyana Taylor plays a cop very well. That said, she didn't demand much screen time, so the decision isn't one that winds up costing the film very much. And speaking of Teyana Taylor, I ain't even gonna hold y'all. She been out here winning red carpets left and right lately. If you see the photo of her on the red carpet for this movie, she looked like a sexy ass ninja for real. Real talk. She, baby girl, she did that one. I ain't even gonna take it away from her. Anyway, I wish we had gotten a little more on the cartel and on Desiree Lopez Molina, especially since she ends up getting a big portion of the seizure after the dust settles on this thing. And I have to admit that when it happened, I literally felt nothing because I just didn't know enough about her as a character. Though we did learn a little bit about her plight through brief bouts of dialogue throughout the film, I just didn't feel enough of an attachment to her to really care that her life was going to change, that it was going to be different. You know what I mean? And so I kind of felt like the ball was dropped there as well. Now, overall, I'd give this movie a 75%, or a 7.5 out of 10 if you're thinking IMDb score. essentially a C plus for a letter grade. Now, this movie isn't anything spectacular. But I mean, if it was, it probably would have had a theatrical run instead of going straight to a streamer. And I say that not because that Ben Affleck and Matt Damon didn't try to do a good job, but I think that if you were planning for a movie with a theatrical release, you probably would have had more money, more resources. I mean, maybe even $50 to $100 million. This looked more like about a 10 or 15, $20 million movie at most. And that sounds about right for a straight to streamer Netflix movie. And so maybe, again, that could have, a little more fireworks would have done this film some good. That said, it does a pretty good job of being exactly what it was produced to be, a movie that further expands Netflix's content library during the dog days of January. I think this movie did do a good job of telling a confined story, which, again, are the kinds of movies that intrigue me. I think primarily because I know that as an indie filmmaker with not much access to large amounts of capital, these are the kind of stories that I have to get better at telling. And all things considered, I think this movie is a pretty good choice for something to watch on a weekend when you're searching for something that you haven't seen before. But what do you guys think? Have you had a chance to watch The Rip yet? If you have, what did you think about the concept of the film? What did you think about how the plot played out over the course of the film? And what did you think about how the film ended? Let me know in the comments. And for those of you that might be new to the channel, be sure to like and share this video. If you really like the content, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. That way you'll be notified whenever I drop a new video. You can also now support the channel by leaving a super thanks. If you should be so inclined, I'd greatly appreciate it. Also, feel free to subscribe to my new reactions channel and shorts channel for additional content. The links are in the description. In addition to that, be sure to go and check out themadScreenwriter.com for more television and film reviews and info on my upcoming film projects. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. I got plenty of place to write. And I'll catch y'all on the next video.